Howdy everyone, Warsarcy here, and this here is Payday 2 on the PS3 in 2023. Now I've already covered the Xbox 360 version, which is pretty much the same content-wise, so I will very briefly recap some of the ways this version differs from the current Payday 2 before moving on to how many people are playing this version and how well the performance is versus the Xbox 360 version. So quick recap of some of the things that never got updated from this version. Old skill system, no having multiple different builds, skills still cost money, XP isn't bag based and is grindy as hell, pro jobs are still here, and one thing that I actually forgot to mention in the previous video is that when they added machine guns in the Gauge Weapon Pack DLC, they originally had a movement penalty when you held them. This was removed in a later update, but the PS3 and 360 versions still have this penalty. The handcuff animation was also changed in a later update, but of course PS3 and 360 never got this. So with the recap out of the way, let's bring up another thing real quick. Remember when I said that because of the infamy menu, I believe that the Xbox 360 version may be a slightly older one? This is why. As you see on the PS3 version, they had the additional unlabeled tiers that were for potential future updates. The Xbox 360 version, of course, does not have this. So if it's not a newer version, this at least shows that the PS3 version may be a different one. Moving on, let's take a look at the PS3 exclusive mask real quick. While the Xbox 360 got a knockoff Halo helmet, the PS3 just straight up got Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal. I like the Xbox mask, but I still think the PS3 got the better deal as it's a name and everything picture perfect crossover, whereas the Xbox mask is just a vague reference. Now remember when I said that you can pretty much find a lobby at any time of day on the PS3 version? I wasn't joking. There's a lot of people still playing the PS3 version, so you'll have no trouble finding people to play with regardless of what time of day you play. Of course, with plenty of players, you'll also find plenty of dicks like this guy, so don't play with this guy. So now it's time for performance. I wasn't over-exaggerating when I alluded to the PS3 version not running as well as the Xbox 360 version. Plenty more times where the game stutters, which is usually most noticeable when you turn to face another direction and the frame rate just tanks practically in half. Another thing I've noticed that only seems to happen on the PS3 version is when you join a heist in progress and mask up, the frame rate drops to single digits while you're putting your mask on. This also happens when someone else joins the heist, spawns in and puts their mask on. This even happens when you or someone else is brought back from custody and of course put their mask back on. Thankfully though, besides during these specific instances, the game doesn't make a habit of dropping that low. I mean, yeah, it's definitely got an unstable as hell frame rate, but I've put many hours into it, as have many others, clearly shown by the amount of people still playing it, and it's definitely playable enough that I plan to put many more hours into it. I'm going to assume that, and this applies to the future versions we'll be taking a look at here on the channel, that the performance issues of this version were due to poor optimization. Because if the Xbox 360 version can run as well as it does, then there's no reason that the PS3 version shouldn't be running just as well, if not better. But then again, Overkill doesn't exactly have a good track record when it comes to console ports in general, which is why they've got an uphill battle when it comes to righting their mistakes and gaining the trust of console users with the upcoming Payday 3, but that's a story for another video. But in terms of 7th gen releases, for performance alone, I'd normally say that I recommend the Xbox 360 version over the PS3 one, but due to the PS3 version having a lot more players, you're just going to have a better time going with that version over the Xbox 360 one. Plus, as I mentioned in the previous video, playing online is free. The PS3 version was also very early on given away with PlayStation Plus, and given how many people I've seen at max infamy level, I wouldn't be surprised if at least a few of those people are still playing this version all these years later. There's also plenty of people just starting off in this version, and as to whether or not they're Payday veterans who are just deciding to give this version a chance, or if they're genuinely new to the game and decide to make the PS3 version their first experience for some reason, I have no idea. Either way, the PS3 version is clearly the more popular choice of the two. And that's going to be it for this video, and with this video video, we have now concluded the classic era of Payday 2. I've decided to indeed go forward with covering the future console releases, and have in fact already captured footage for the Switch version, so that'll be coming next. All future releases from here on out are at least updated to a new enough version that the core mechanics are still mostly in line with the PC version, which means that a player of one version could easily hop over to the other and not feel too out of place, besides the much larger selection of heists, weapons, and characters, etc. I am also considering covering the PS3 version of Payday the Heist, but it's unfortunately extremely difficult to find anyone still playing it, so that's going to have to wait until I can at least find one other person to play with. Until then, we'll continue on with Payday 2. So, thanks for watching. This is WarsRC on the Game Clips channel, and I'm out.